Well, hey there, friends. Curious, if you're not driving, is your phone nearby? Why don't you grab it, look at your screen, and go ahead and follow, like, subscribe, because we're headed into a really fun episode. And hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Leah Piper and Dr. Willow Brown. We're the hosts of the Sex Reimagined podcast.
And we're exploring today how military-grade technology is revolutionizing sexual health with Dr. Soum Rakshit, who is the co-founder and CEO of Mystery Vibe. This is a medical-grade sex toy company. He's been working with doctors around the world to create these devices that help people come back to sexual health and wholeness in ways they never imagined. This man used to be a biomedical engineer and did all this work with U.S. Defense Company for years, and actually walked away from that career and stepped into creating devices that are unheard of on the market.
Yes, so exciting. So tune in, turn on, and fall in love with Dr. Soum.
Welcome to the Sex Reimagined podcast, where sex is shame-free and pleasure-forward. Let's get into the show.
Okay, here we are.
Yes, and today we are going to have such a rich and juicy, deep conversation with Soum Rakshit, a doctor who has revolutionized sexual play tools. And so the question is, what if the same technology used in defense systems could transform your sex life? With Dr. Rakshit today, we're going to talk about how he left a lucrative career to pioneer devices that have helped over 100,000 people overcome intimate health challenges that so many people are just too embarrassed to even talk about. So we're so excited that you're here, Dr. Rakshit, and you are the CEO and founder of Mystery Vibe. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about how you came to this.
Thank you so much for having me. And, we're very excited to say that it's now 200,000 users we've helped.
200,000 at this point.
It's growing fast.
Wow,
amazing.
Congrats.
Thank you. Well, I think the big piece, like you said, is bringing the right amount of technology from various parts. So we worked in defense before. Our work, goes back 2004, was on biometrics. So using cameras to look at irises, to recognize people. So it was the same area of biomedical engineering, which is what we do now, but the application was very different. It's used in security and national defense. And even back then, we would work very closely with the doctors, the ophthalmologists, telling us exactly how the eye works, how it's created, how it moves, and then building the tech around it to make it a security application. So that's kind of how we got started in biomedical, with defense as the application. And then we used the exact same technology, which, the components and all of that we used in defense, now working with urologists, gynecologists, pelvic floor therapists, them now telling us what are the big problems for pelvic pain, vaginal dryness, erectile dysfunction, prostate pain, all of these areas, which are very common. But when we started 11 years ago, it was hard to even explain what you mean by pelvic floor. There just wasn't enough awareness. There wasn't enough education, even within the medical community, outside the experts. Say, primary care physician might not know the details of vaginal dryness after menopause. So I think, we're very lucky that over the 11 years, society has moved on so much that we don't have to explain a lot of the things anymore. But when we started, it was both using engineering to build the stuff, but also creating the education and awareness at the same time.
I'm curious, how are your products helping someone with pelvic floor pain?
So all our products are designed to be very malleable and mimic what the standard of care would be. So the standard of care for pelvic floor therapy is fingers. So the therapists use their fingers, they insert them, reach the points, press them, massage them. So the Crescendo device, which is the PT device, is designed with PTs telling us how they would like something that the patient can use at home, which is the main purpose. So it is not better than going to a therapist. The outcome is the same, The
Okay.
main difference is that you have access to the care at home. And ideally, you'd have the first session with a therapist. They'd explain exactly how you would use it, and then use it ideally 3 times a week for 12 weeks, which is the right amount for therapy as well. And then go back 3 months later for your, hopefully, the final session in that setting where you are pain free. So the product is very much designed to mimic exactly what you would get in therapy.
Yeah, I was at a dinner party at Susan Bratton's and she brought out a whole box of Mystery Vibe products.
Is that right?
Yeah, we were playing with them and they are really the malleability and the texture and the softness, but the structure and just they're really something else. Like they're really superior products. So I
Thank
think
you.
that
And Susan is amazing. She's been supporting us for years.
I know she's
a great
loves
ally.
you guys. Yeah.
You want Susan Bratton on your side, let
For
me tell you.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm so curious, like, what was the turning point? Because you had a really lucrative career in the, previous business. What shifted? What kind of turned your attention toward sexual devices?
Yeah. So that's actually a really easy answer. Once we did our work in ophthalmology and build the camera systems, that got acquired by a US California company. And then we were looking at what next do we do? How do we bring our biomedical, because all of us spend years in biomedical already. So I did a PhD and a postdoc, and I really wanted to apply that, but in an area which was big, but not enough solutions. And we knew nothing about urology or gynecology, doing our work in ophthalmology. So we went to NHS, which is the National Health Service here in London. And the head of NHS clinical entrepreneurship, he himself is a urologist. And he said, the big area that we want people to be working in is urology and gynecology because, and this goes back, more than when did we first, maybe 13, 14 years ago when we first had this conversation. And he said that there's just so many issues which don't even get reported. And this is obviously, a while back. But him as an expert knew how big the problem is, but the public didn't. Like there was no awareness of even prostate cancer, which is 1 in 6 men. But often people would have prostate cancer, not even know. It was that bad back then with anything to do with sexual health. So it really is down to that. We got told that this is the big area that you guys need to build stuff in and educate people in, because almost everyone has some issue, or multiple issues many times in life. So it's not something very complicated, like, solving a very complex cancer. It's something that happens to everybody, as a matter of life, whether it's post-childbirth pain or menopause or ED. It's just like normal life. It's nothing really odd, but there just wasn't enough solution. Whether it's tablet-based solution, therapy-based solution, device-based solution, there just wasn't enough solution. So that was the driver behind deciding to put in our biomed engineering expertise.
So you were just
Wearable.
kind of done with one thing and looking for the next thing, and so you
Yes,
consulted
exactly.
to find like what is it that's needed in the market today. That's so great.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So,
And even today, the main thing I would add is when we build a device, it's very much driven by clinicians telling us what we should be building. We don't have like a product roadmap saying these are the things we're going to build just because we feel like building them.
And when
So,
you say clinicians, are you talking about medical doctors primarily, or also people like
therapists,
physical therapists,
Exactly.
urologists, yeah.
pelvic
Exactly.
floor?
Yeah. Anyone in sexual health. A very nice example is recently at AUA, the Urology Association conference, we met a doctor who said the big issue for them is post-penile surgery rehabilitation. So after surgery, the patients would need a special type of bandage in order to compress the penis, and then obviously have to take it off for showers.
What kind of surgery was this to the penis? Or just
any
surgical?
any penile surgery, they would
Okay.
need rehabilitation. which is generally with compression bandages. But it's quite difficult, it gets wet and then you have to replace them. So
Right.
they, and like a lot of our products just start with these conversations and they say, can you guys figure out something, a way to address this without using bandages? And we researched for a while and we figured out a way would be using magnets. So in medical silicone,
Magnets.
yeah, like a very flexible medical silicone with magnets in between, which can be wrapped around the penis, and the magnet would be like a groove to tighten
Okay.
over. So it can be as compressive or as relaxed as you need in a single hand
Wow.
operation.
That
And
is so
obviously
cool.
waterproof, reusable. So, the things we do often are quite simple. It's not a complicated thing, but it's driven by a real problem that the clinicians and the patients face right now, and there isn't any easy solution.
Yeah. If we can go back to the pelvic floor. So I've got a student who has just penetration, penis vagina penetration is just excruciating. It is so painful. The pain is mostly in and around the introitus. She's worked with dilators. She's done some pelvic floor therapeutic interventions. Things have improved a little bit, but there's a sense of hopelessness, right? When you feel like you can't have the type of sex your friends are having, that your partner really wants to have. It can feel so hopeless and so discouraging. And I'm curious. So first, two questions. One is, are a lot of your products being sold to medical professionals dealing with various issues that are more medical related? Are you also selling to the public for their own pleasure and exploration?
It's both. So yes, you could get the devices from your clinician. It's FSHSA, so you can use your FSHSA cards to buy them. But equally, you can go to our website or Walmart or Amazon and buy the devices. You don't need a prescription. We're fully reimbursed by Veterans Affairs, so if you're a veteran, you can get it completely free of cost.
Wow.
Through
That's
your
cool.
VA
Yeah.
primary care. And the reason for that is pelvic pain is really big in female veteran soldiers, and erectile dysfunction is very big in male veteran soldiers. So the things that we do apply, which is why we are fully covered by them. So it really depends on your circumstance, whether you would buy it directly online
Okay.
through a clinician or through another channel.
So it's possible that your insurance could cover the devices?
Only FSHSA,
yeah,
which is partial. So the reimbursement code is what we're currently working on. So we presented, so pelvic pain as of yet isn't covered from a DME, which is durable medical equipment perspective. However, it is covered from a CPT code, which means therapy is covered. It depends
Okay.
on where you go, but there are CPT codes for it. So we have presented to CMS in order to create a DME code. And even if we don't get a DME code, we should be able to get an S code. What S code means is that it will be covered by private insurers, but not by Medicare and Medicaid. So I think by the end of this year, we should have the S code.
That's
And
amazing.
we started 2 years ago. Yeah.
That's revolutionary event in and of itself for sexual devices, for them to be covered.
Yeah, and it would apply to anything
even for
in pelvic
HSA,
pain.
for it to be covered by that is great.
Yes,
Yeah.
that took 2 years.
I was going to
Everything
say,
Yeah,
I was
everything
going to say
different.
that must have been a process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question, and you may or may not be able to answer this. Maybe a pelvic floor therapist would be able to answer this more, but I'm curious, with this particular example, how would your device work for that pain that resides right around the introitus or the vaginal opening? Is there any way you can explain that? I was just looking at the device online to kind of see its shape.
So that's actually a different device. It's called the Legato and is designed for people who cannot insert anything at all. Yeah.
Okay.
So the device I was talking about earlier is Crescendo and is designed to mimic fingers going inside. And then we have another version called Molto, which is a single finger going inside for people who don't want 2-finger width. However, for patients who cannot insert anything at all, it's a completely different modality where the device Legato, which looks like this, it sits on the labia and it vibrates to create blood flow and arousal and lubrication. So the original reason why we created it is based on feedback from menopause specialists on creating something that sits externally and can continue to be used during intercourse. Yeah, so it's a very big opening.
So
Okay.
does it go through? Does it pass through the introitus at all, or just stimulate the vulva?
It just stimulates the vulva and the labia. So it's purely like
Okay, and so that's what you would recommend for this
So
student.
for
of
someone who
Leah's?
cannot insert anything, that's the only device.
She can be penetrated. Is it possible that it would be helpful to use both those devices
Yeah.
together?
Maybe
Yeah,
and maybe
because
the
the
smaller
gap
one,
is so
the
big.
one
Yeah,
digit.
the
Yeah.
1 digit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
molto. Yeah, it's literally index finger. And again, this is what's so interesting about our devices. So typically we get told X, it's like one thing, and we build something for that. And then it's used somewhere completely different.
In some other
and,
way.
Of
And we
course,
only
right?
find out much later, like,
Yeah.
maybe years later, we find out it's being used, in a big amount there. So molto is the perfect example of that. It was designed.
What's it called?
Molta.
Molto. Yeah, it was
Molto.
designed.
Molto?
MOLTO, molto. It was designed to mimic the index finger in order to reach the prostate, vibrate the prostate, and help with pain relief. Yeah. And it's very common. Like you typically go to a urologist and they would insert the finger. It's literally that. There's nothing special. Yeah. And then that's because it's so slim, became really useful in pelvic floor therapy for women who had, never even heard of our device for prostate care.
Right.
Right. So
Wow.
how
Yeah.
I have a student example now. So I've got a guy who has like the point of penetration is kind of when he goes away, like he can't experience his body anymore due to a lot of more pressure from society, performance anxiety, that kind of thing. So I'm just curious, I'm sure you have an amazing device that would help with his being able to penetrate without getting overly excited and overly pressured in that moment. But I'm also curious if you've found the use of your devices to really help people in their mind as well, to help them get over limiting beliefs, societal constructs, things that really
Anxiety.
block us from having better sex.
Can I ask a distinction in your question, Willow?
Yeah.
Are you saying that he goes away at the point of penetrating someone or being
Yeah.
penetrated himself?
Penetrating someone.
Got it.
And do you mean he has erectile dysfunction as a result of psychogenic?
I wouldn't say he has ED. It's more just like feeling like like he needs to perform, like he needs to do it right, like he's got this pressure, and so then at the point of penetration, if there hasn't been enough buildup for him at that point of penetration, he
Disassociates?
he just gets too excited. He just gets overly
Does that mean
excited.
he ejaculates or
I would say probably sometimes, like probably there's a premature ejaculation thing going on at some times, but I think that it's sort of just it's causing this anxiety about penetrating at all.
yeah. Does it like ruin sex for him where he's
Yeah.
just like now he's just in his head?
That is so interestingly, and kind of all of this falls under the psychogenic side of male sexual dysfunction, where physiologically everything is fine, arteries, blood flow, muscles, etc. And it's in the mind. And sadly, 40%, which is the biggest segment of ED specifically, is psychogenic, but premature ejaculation is also a massive issue as well, especially amongst younger men, which ironically becomes a different issue later.
I know, isn't that? Yeah.
Of
Jeez.
delayed ejaculation or
Yeah.
anejaculation.
Right.
So as you get older, it gets harder and harder to
Right.
ejaculate, whereas early on, it's the reverse problem. So the work we do, and the reason I brought it up, is all on the delayed side. And there is actually a really good company on premature ejaculation called MyHixel. And what they do...
What's it called?
MyHixel.
Can you spell that?
I think it's MIHIXCL.
Okay.
Yeah,
MyHixel.
also a med device. But what they do is training. So they have a device and like a sleeve, right?
Yeah.
It has like compression and stuff, and there's an app, and it tells you when to stop and then train yourself so you don't ejaculate, and then do a bit more and then stop. Like it's a whole
Okay, that
setup.
Okay.
monitors your response, and so helps you
Yeah.
delay your ejaculation by giving you presence to stop all friction.
And
Exactly.
if you've
Exactly.
never heard of a penis sleeve before, it's kind of like a big rubber condom.
Talking about
so
you're not talking about like a pocket pussy?
no, we're talking about a penis sleeve. So it's like a
Penis
big.
Yeah.
sleeve.
It's kind of thick generally, and it kind of goes.
Yeah.
So it create more girth. If you were having sex with a penis sleeve, there would be more width and more girth around that penis. So this device, it sounds
Well,
like.
this device is really big. Like it's just to train.
Yeah, but
it's a
it's
big,
for
massive thing.
self-pleasure. Obviously, you wouldn't use this with a partner when the
Yeah.
stakes are
This-
really high.
No, it's very much it's very much like a training device you use, and you learn to
Ah.
control your ejaculation
Yeah,
over, say, 3
love
months,
that.
6 months. It's
Sure.
a long-term
That's-
thing. And then, hopefully you've already got to the point where you can control your ejaculation
Yeah.
and you don't need the device, and, you are on.
That's
You're
great. So it's
independent.
measuring basically, so you have a more felt sense awareness of where your I could come soon triggers are, those sensations, that mindfulness, so that you can track that when the stakes are high and you might
Yeah.
be with a partner. Okay.
Good to know.
And the
Yeah.
other thing I would add to that, the patient you mentioned, is if they use penile constriction ring,
yeah.
as long as it's the right size, it's comfortable, then even if they ejaculate, they can maintain the erection and have intercourse, which is big part of, say, using a vacuum pump, which is a really common device for ED.
Mhm.
So using a vacuum pump to get erect, pull
Are you
the
talking
blood.
about a penis pump?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
And when you
Yeah.
say ring, are you talking about a cock ring?
Yes, but you could get them very specifically, which have, let's say, a bit in the bottom to allow for ejaculation, not just a simple circle.
No,
Because
Okay.
the challenge with using a circle is it constricts the blood and the semen.
yeah.
So you
Okay.
could get
We learned
specialist
about these
rings.
really incredible cock rings that what was that doctor's name?
Dr. Justin?
Elliot Justin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Elliot has a really good one.
Yeah.
It's called Firmtech. It's a very good
Yes.
device.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
exactly.
it also monitors, like when you're sleeping, it monitors your
Correct.
how many times
Nocturnal
you get hard throughout the
erections.
Yeah,
night.
your nocturnal
Now, do you have any
erections.
devices like that for women or men?
Or
that
do you have
are-
any cock rings that are specifically sized or have a unique
Yes.
design?
So the device we make specifically for erections is Tenuto. It has two sizes, Tenuto, the large one and the small one. And what that does is it solves the issue of having two separate devices, one to get erect, like a vacuum penis pump, and two to hold erection using a ring. So what this does is vibrates on the penis glands, the head,
Okay.
gets the arousal and the blood flow, and then you stretch it, bring it back and place it at the base to constrict the penis blood in the penis and have a gap in the bottom for ejaculation. And then the big version also has a separate perineum stimulator to continue that arousal, the blood flow to the penis. So what that does is address any ED issues which are blood flow related. I mean, the problem is that's all we can do, what we cannot solve. And you need definitely therapists and guides for is when it's psychogenic. We can still physiologically help with blood flow. So we have a publication on that, helping psychogenic ED patients get erect again, because it just does a very physical activity of pushing the blood in. But we would still say the underlying reasons need to be addressed as to why, say, performance anxiety, stress is affecting erection and ejaculation.
Do you have any solutions that you're working with now that are pertaining to men who have a difficult time reaching climax?
Like they just
They can't get over the
reach
hill.
it. Yeah.
And their partner's like, would you come already?
yeah.
And
Oh, right. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So we just recently published a paper, which is the first paper of its kind, which I'm so excited about it, using prostate stimulation to overcome an ejaculation
And ejaculation
delayed.
meaning
So
not able to
not being,
ejaculate.
yes. So the Molto device, which originally was designed for pain management.
Okay, to the prostate, pain
Yes.
management for prostate
Yes.
pain.
And no one had ever done a study linking prostate stimulation to ejaculation.
That's
So
crazy.
it was the first time ever. No, the reason is there wasn't any device to do it with. It's not that
Oh.
the urologist.
What about this device?
knew. But that's the problem is you
Right.
cannot really run a study
You can't. Right.
with, where you have to constantly go to somebody to do that because you can't physically reach your own prostate. And that was the big issue, right? So,
Right.
and this is not somebody with any prostate issues. So you would not really do that. But the theory was always there that because the prostate creates semen, stimulating it should lead to ejaculation. And that theory is very obvious. But no one had ever done a study because there was nothing to study with. Yeah.
So they used the Molto?
Yes. So the study got published last month.
Oh, that's so cool. So
which
tell
proves
us
that-
about this study.
Yeah,
Like,
tell us
what
the
did it
findings.
consist in?
It's a very early study in the sense that I think it was 20, 25 patients, all with either delayed or an ejaculation problems. And then they used Molto. It depends on the patient. I think most of them were 10 minutes per session for, I think 3 months.
Okay.
And they had a significant, and there is a score to measure, and they had a significant improvement in their ejaculation, and both from delayed to an, and then that got accepted and published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine. So,
That's
that was really
amazing.
exciting. Yeah.
So,
Congrats.
walk me through that process. So, in the study, are men having sex with the toy inside of them to help with that
No.
ejaculatory response, or is it self pleasure
It
and
is.
then working with? But they are actively stroking their penis
Correct.
while having this prostate stimulation.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
And they and this cohort of patients didn't have other issues like ED. So their only issue, in order to keep the study simple,
Yeah.
so their only issue was to do with ejaculation. They didn't have other sexual dysfunctions at the same time. So very much the application of prostate stimulation and stroking would then lead to a different outcome from just stroking without any stimulation.
And it's a vibrator.
Yes, it is a vibrator.
Okay.
So, and it's very bendy. It's like a finger, but it adapts to the rectum and reaches the
Yeah.
prostate.
And I noticed it has a very large
Base.
base.
Yes.
So therefore, if they're not holding it in, it'll stay in by itself.
It will stay in, and more importantly, for safety, it won't get sucked in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. I look forward to recommending that to some people I know who are really struggling with it. In particular, I have one student who shared confidentiality wise that he was having a hard time reaching climax with his wife. But in his other side relationships, he wasn't having any problem reaching climax. And I think that more has to do with the excitement of a new partner, and probably the levels of hormones are going up with somebody who's new versus someone you've been married to for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Very
So I'm so
interesting.
curious. I want to kind of roll back to, you used to work in defense, creating like military defense devices. So you're an engineer at heart. So how like what were you creating? Were you creating guns? Were you creating explosives? What were you creating way back in your other life?
Nothing
And
complicated.
how has that? Yeah.
No,
How
this
has
is
that-
so long back. Drones didn't even exist. I'm talking about 21 years ago. So you know what we made? It's called Iris on the Move. So it's a gate, which is used in airports, literally a walk-through gate.
Okay.
And
Like
you
a
walk-
robot type of device?
A gate
No,
that
no,
you
a
walk
ga- a
through like
gate.
at an airport.
Yeah, just the
Oh.
airport. You know, like
Okay,
when you
got it.
have your TSA,
Yes.
and then you have to walk through this frame, right?
Yeah.
So we built a version of that called Iris on the Move, which
Okay.
had a camera,
To read your
which
eyes.
as you walk through would capture, extract, match, and by the time you had finished walking, it would know who you are, and it would
Oh,
open
so like facial recognition type of thing?
like
I
face,
reckon
exactly like that, but
eyeballs.
with eyeballs, exactly.
Reading your eyeballs.
No
Okay,
kidding.
so now how did that technology translate into a vulva pain and
Well,
ED issues?
you know what? The underlying tech, the electronics, all of that is basically the same, right?
Okay.
So we custom designed everything back then, to fit in the gate. And
Mhm.
the only difference is now we have more processing power than 21 years ago.
Oh, right.
So we can do a lot more stuff in a tiny chip,
Okay.
which
So
we couldn't
it's
do.
all
So
based in these like tiny little chips.
exactly. So
Okay.
the underlying electronics, it's not complicated, right? At
Have you
least
always
not
been like an engineer geek, just able to
yes,
put things together and take things
yes.
apart?
Still am, which is why we can't really leave this field, because no matter how old we get, we want to be in the lab building stuff.
You want to be building and
Yeah.
creating. I love it.
I want to know a little bit about the technology you're using for orgasm for women. And we know we've talked about ejaculation for men with the prostate product. What are you doing? What's out there that's working having to do with women reaching climaxes?
It's a really good point, because we have a study on anorgasmia.
Meaning not able to have an orgasm.
Yeah. And we also
And
have a study on
orgasm.
arousal disorder, which is, often an issue which leads to not being able to orgasm, and a separate paper on vaginal dryness. All of these things are interconnected, but the fundamental point to everything is vibratory stimulation between 50 and 100 hertz is what is clinically proven for decades. And this is not our research. There is really well established mammoth amount of clinical research on vibration, starting from 1890s, the first with hysteria,
Right.
So the most interesting point about vibration is it was invented by a doctor for sexual dysfunction. It was medical for at least the first 50 years. It only became a pleasure device in the 70s. Now, obviously, most people know it as a pleasure device, when it comes to vibrators. But the majority of the history of vibration and its application has been medical. So the professor at King's College, who's our chief medical officer, he has been researching on vibration for 30 years, long before we started, which is why the doctor at NHS connected me with him, saying, if you do this company, you must have this professor, because he has been working on vibration for a long time on various things like, passing urine. How can a vibration on the bladder help someone pee who cannot pee? Like research like this, which, goes back 3 decades. So the work is all about vibration. Going back to orgasms, all we do is make it very precise, the frequency and the delivery point. Yeah. And that's really all we do fundamentally. It's not complicated. Make sure that the vibration frequency is the right number based on what has worked before, and make it really malleable and easy for the patient, the user, to get to the point where they need it. Yeah. So the anorgasmia topic is really interesting. What we found is often women who couldn't orgasm could get very close, and then something just stopped
Short
them from.
circuit. Yeah.
Yes. So what happened is with the vibration being at the right point, wherever that right point is for them, this was an internal intravaginal study, in the sense that it only vibrated inside, and they could
Wait,
hold
hold
it.
on. Sorry, I have to interrupt you. It only vibrated inside the vagina, so there was no vibration to the clitoris?
With this device, you can, in theory, have both sides vibrating, but the way the study was set up is we left it to the patient to decide what is the right place for them.
Okay.
Because for some users, they need both. Some users, they don't like both. But everyone had internal stimulation, whether or not they had external, and they didn't use anything else. So just one device. And what the conclusion was that the reason they were able to orgasm was they could get over that barrier by delivering high power vibration on a point that is really arousing for them. And it kept going to overcome their mental barriers.
What do you mean
So-
it kept going?
As in the vibration
The
To
vibration.
overcome
on the
their
point
mental.
that they felt was the right point for them, which is why we didn't specify.
Oh, okay.
Which
Which is why
go
they did
beyond
short
that
circuit. Yeah,
point.
that
Yeah.
moment where they
Okay.
tend to go,
Gotcha.
oh my God,
Yeah.
it goes away. That vibration continues at a certain
Yeah.
level
Yeah.
so that they can cross
Exactly
that
where they
hurdle.
need it. Yeah.
Mhm.
So they decided
Interesting.
where they needed. They decided how much. There's a 1 to 16 level. So they decided how much power is the right amount. And then they could deliver that continuously to the point that they could overcome the barriers.
So
Now-
this I'm imagining mostly is like on the G spot inside internally, but
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Are women also using this device or one of your devices to kind of open and stimulate cervix for cervical orgasms?
We haven't, I don't think we've done any studies on that. Whether any of the studies did have patients using it, that way we haven't captured. But
Okay.
that could be a really good study to do.
Yes, that would be an
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah, that'd be
study.
fascinating. Mhm.
And then we'll
Yeah.
have
And
you
the
back
device
on
is
the
long
show
enough to
talking
do
about
it. The crescendo device is long enough to do
that
it.
one could do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Crescendo.
Okay, so
That's why we're
um,
always looking for new studies all the
Oh,
time.
well,
Yeah,
do you need new participants
yes,
for
if
your
you need
studies?
Always.
volunteers, we will dedicate
Always.
our bodies to science.
At any time, we have at least 10 studies running.
I
Yeah,
love that.
wow, that's great. Well, friends, this is the perfect moment, if you haven't done it already, to like and subscribe. And please comment on what you've been hearing so far. Are you as riveted as we are? Please bring your questions to the table.
Yeah, and next, Dr. Rakshit is going to reveal the shocking medical condition that's been affecting 1 in 3 women that's inspired one of his most groundbreaking devices.
Well, it's something we talk about all the time, but not many people realize how many women it affects. So it's period pain. 1 in 3 women of menstruating age have period pain so severe
So
that they have to
severe.
miss work.
Yeah, or
That
school.
That was me.
God,
was
I had friends in
always
high school who,
dying.
like, every month they have to spend 2 days at home.
I was that girl for
Really?
sure.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
the dreaded pain.
It was horrible. Hot water
And
bottles.
to think
doubled
it's 1
over.
in 3, but very few people, well, like apart from people working in sexual health, I don't think anyone realizes that stat.
That it's
Everyone
much.
knows
Yeah.
it's there. Everyone is aware that period
Yeah.
pain is a thing. But I would say 99% people think it's just another pain and you can, do whatever you do.
Right.
But I don't think anyone
It's a
outside.
debilitating pain.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone outside sexual health knows that 1 in 3 women cannot do anything with
Like
that pain.
severe.
Like
I
can't
didn't.
do anything.
Yeah.
Like have to
Yeah.
just sit in pain for
Yeah.
2 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Every
and
month.
every month. And with
Yeah.
my, this has been a huge part of my work is I've been in women's health and wellness for so long, and it's been using herbs and using moxa, using acupuncture, all of that stuff can make a huge, huge difference in moving that stagnant blood out of the womb. But they also have to have enough blood to like push through that stagnant blood. So if there's a blood deficiency, then we need to also tonify their blood. And then what I found for myself and for many of my students as well is like we would get to a certain level of pain release and relief. But then there would still be a little bit of this like underlying. And then when I started using the Taoist sexual practices, specifically ovarian breathing to pump energy through the ovaries, through the fallopian tubes, through the womb, that pretty much wiped everything out. So I'm so excited to learn about what you
Yes.
have
very
devised
curious.
as a non-womb owner. I mean, I think that's miraculous in and of itself.
Yeah, but you've literally explained exactly what our device does.
Oh,
no
great.
way.
All it does is blood flow, and that's it.
Uh-huh.
So what we have designed is this. Think of it as like a rectangular thing. Yeah,
Okay.
it's very slim. Obviously made of medical silicone with vibration motors inside, and it's so one
What's
of
it
the
called?
It's called Soto. It's not released yet. It's still in medical because
Okay.
all our products take at least 5 years. And this one, luckily, is in the 5th year, and we've already
It's
finished the medical
almost
trials.
out,
Oh,
ladies.
Yeah, it should.
good.
It
Hang
will be
on
out
to
in a
your
few months.
wombs. We're almost
Yeah.
there.
So, what it does is it sticks to your lower abdomen, so basically just below the belly button. It's a sticky thing. Yeah, very easy to attach, take out, and it's very slim. So you just put it on, wear your clothes, get on with your day, and it's very quiet, and it has a 12-hour runtime, and that
So
was
you
really
just
important.
stick it on, turn it on, and away you
And
go.
it
It's
vibrates.
way
Exactly.
better than
It-
a leave.
So it vibrates, but again, the right frequency is the right amount, but for a very long time. So one of the biggest challenges we faced with building this is often pain lasts quite long, and
Right.
most
You
of
have to
our
charge
products, exactly, and that's obviously not possible, when you're out. And most of our products are designed to last 2 hours maximum because you don't
Sure.
really need it for more than that. Whereas this one, 2 hours was not going to be enough. So we had to redesign everything to make it last 12 hours.
Wow.
So we ran a study, and there was, so while it was vibrating, in all the cases, they either didn't feel the pain or was very, very minimal. So basically continuously getting blood flowing. Fundamentally, that's all it's doing. So it's not complicated. But it was more about the usability of the device, that you can, go out,
Yeah.
do your things.
The ease of it. So I'm
yes.
curious now in this study, because I always want to know more details about what kind of blood is coming out. Are you now seeing more clots being passed? Is it dark? Is
Oh,
the blood?
that we don't know yet, because
You don't
this
know
is
that.
so we do 2 types of studies. One is a study while a product is still being created, which is not a formal study in the sense that we don't publish these. It's just purely to inform product research. Then once the product is fully out, regulated, etc., then we will do a proper medical trial to get clinical evidence and publish
see.
papers.
So
So it's
you're
2
not
separate
quite there
things.
yet.
This was more like studies to understand what is working, what is not working, to then decide what the final product should be. So which is why all of our development takes forever.
Right.
We are
So it's like
working
you have
on
to have a pre-trial, then run
exactly.
the device, and have a post-trial to get the real
Exactly.
data that you want to put out to the public.
Yep. And often the pre-trial would tell us that the product that we made isn't good enough, and we'd redo the whole thing, which is why it's so useful.
That's
And
why it
that's
takes
happened
years.
it's happened to many products where
But that's
we
why your
build something.
products are so exceptional.
But I think the most important thing is, in healthcare, you can't really launch anything which is not good enough.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the clinicians trust that you would, make sure you're doing all the right things, both safety and efficacy. And so if we are in a rush to launch something, it would definitely not be good enough.
Right.
There's a product we're working on, which we're really excited about, but it's at least a year away. It's a mastitis bra. So it's,
That's going to be amazing for women. That's great.
and the
Wait,
reason
what's
we're,
that? A
Mastitis.
mastitis bra?
You get mastitis often when
For nursing?
breastfeeding,
Okay.
where one of the little
Nickel ducts.
glands
yeah.
gets inflamed,
Okay.
and it hurts like a motherfucker. It's so painful.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
And currently there are no solutions.
There's no solution.
Right.
Cabbage is the only solution.
Warm towels generally is what people would tell you. Warm towels, and so it's such a massive thing. No solution at all. So that's why
Wow.
we're so excited about getting that out, so we can
When
get
do you propose that will launch?
at least a year away.
A
sadly.
year.
and what does it do?
It's literally the same thing as the
Vibrates.
period pain belt, soft sticky silicone. Like those sticky bras.
Yeah,
Yes.
that cover your
it's
nipples.
exactly-
nipple.
So yeah.
Exactly that, just like a bigger version of that, again with vibration. And then, so that one, we're going to have vibration and heat. So that's why
Yes.
it's a lot more complicated.
That'll be
Interesting.
nice.
So it will have
Yeah.
heat and vibration.
That'll feel good, just even if you don't have mastitis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just for
Yeah.
Warm vibration
Yeah.
on your breast. Yes, please.
Exactly.
I mean, I think over what I'm predicting, what you're going to find with that particular product is that it also supports breast health, like
Mhm.
you know,
Yep.
moving like fibrocystic breast tissue,
Yep.
really opening up any kind of breast issues. However, if somebody has breast cancer, probably they don't want to use that device.
Yeah, no, exactly. There will be so many applications. And also, we always tell people, if you have any complications, check with your doctor before you use anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we get
Now-
so many emails about, questions, and we always
Yeah.
tell them to check with their clinician
Check with
first.
your doctor. Yeah.
how long does it take for you to come up with an idea for a product, do all the testing, and get it to the marketplace? What's the general length of time?
So it really depends on how simple the product is. So our quickest product to market was the Molto, which is the single finger,
Yeah.
because it has the least amount of parts
Mhm.
to
It's just
to build
simple.
it. It's really
Yeah.
simple. Whereas
what-
the breast pain device, it has the most number of
Most
parts, and
complicated.
it just means it so many things need to be perfect. And the reason I use that word is because once in medtech, you can't really do minimum viable product. It's just it's not, you can't get that through regulatory approval. Also, you don't want to invest a lot of money on clinical trials when the product is not final. So
Totally.
you want to get to the point where the product is really, really good. And sometimes it does happen that we think the product's really, really good. We do trials, but it's not good enough. Then, Crescendo became Crescendo 2, then it became Crescendo 2, because we just were not happy enough with that device, even though it was final. So that does happen, but generally we try to make sure we have gathered as much feedback as possible before we launch anything. So it is really simple. Maybe start to finish would be 3 years.
Okay.
If it's complicated, it could be 6,
6.
7 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there any products or any issues that we haven't mentioned that you think would be important to mention?
So one of the things we're currently working on is adding sensors. And this is, again, quite far away in the sense that it being an actual product in the market, we need different types of studies. So a simple example would be enlarged prostate.
Mhm.
So the Molto device, obviously, it's inserted, can reach the prostate and vibrate. But what we are working on now is adding sensors inside the silicone. So it will look the same, it will work the same, but it will be able to capture at least temperature, pressure, and moisture data. And then what we would have to do is run a big study to match whether there is a correlation between those data points for people with enlarged prostate versus the data points for people with a completely perfect prostate. Yeah. And then if we can prove that, then we would know that there is a certain range where those 3 metrics need to be where your prostate is fine, and another range where you should go get it
Check
checked.
your doctor.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought this up because this was a question I had running through my mind earlier. What do you have to say about men who have gotten test results that their PSA scores are a little elevated, their prostate is swollen, and how do you feel about prostate massage as an intervention to try to lower those scores, lower the swelling, as a preventative to something escalating like prostate cancer?
That is literally what Molto is designed to do.
Okay, great.
Prostate massage. Because that's literally what you would get if you went to a clinician with an
lower
enlarged
the
prostate.
prostate,
Exactly. That's
PSA.
all they do. Like from a physical perspective, that is literally it, inserting a finger and pressing it, prostate massage.
Yep.
So the challenge is that you cannot, as a patient, do it to
Do it
yourself,
on your own. Yeah.
which means that most prostate health gets worse because you simply do not have the time to go see whoever it is, a therapist, once a week, which would be the, ideal frequency. That's just not possible.
Right, but partners can do this for their loved one.
Exactly.
And
Correct.
so you would recommend to massage that prostate once a week. At what point is it dangerous or not helpful to continue to do the prostate massage as
I
maybe
think-
they already have cancer or whatnot?
I think the with these things, we always tell people, do what you feel comfortable. Obviously don't do it if there's too much pain. But really, there is no bad effect of prostate massage. There's nothing, nothing wrong with prostate massage. So, but obviously, if you're in excruciating pain, you don't want to do something, whether with a device, with a partner, or, with a clinician, that you want to, go get it checked properly. Maybe maybe it's reached a point where you need surgery. Obviously that's something you obviously cannot solve. But generally, the recommendation from all urologists is regular prostate massage is just going to make your prostate health better.
Healthier.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Glad to get that confirmed.
Everybody, listen, I really want to tell my parents' generation loud and clear, prostate massage is good for you.
Yes.
I'm curious, how do you come up with names for these devices? And how many devices do you have total?
In the market, 6.
In
So
the
those are
market,
the
six.
ones which are, in
Okay, so
there.
when Susan brought out that huge box, a lot of those are not on the market.
No, maybe I think she has multiple of. She has
different
lots of. She
ones,
has loads of
different
her devices.
styles of
Yeah,
things,
she has lots of her devices over the years.
Yeah, okay.
So 6 which are in the market. In the market means they have clinical studies. They obviously are FDA. They're all FSHSA. So that's why it takes a while for anything to be in the market. And then the period pin coming out next, breast pin hopefully in a year. The penile compression one maybe this year. It's just a very slow process. How do we name them? Really simple. We try to make them quite user friendly. So we think of Italian musical note.
Is that what it is? I'm like,
that's all it is. So
I don't understand.
Everything has a meaning. Like crescendo means reaching a peak.
Okay.
Molto. Hang on, I need to give you
Molto.
the right now. So
This is good
molto
to
means
know.
a lot.
A lot.
Cool.
Yeah. Molto means
More
a lot.
I love
orgasms
that.
for all.
Great
Yeah.
question, Willow. I like that.
And why we thought of molto as a lot is because in theory, the strongest orgasm a man can have is through prostate.
Through prostate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes.
They are
Is that
missing the
because
boat if
is
they
it-
don't do that.
is that because of the hypogastric nerve then gets combined with all the other nerves like the vagus and the pelvic?
That is, and
epididymal?
also the prostate is the semen gland.
Okay,
so-
and because it's a
Yeah.
semen gland.
Yeah.
Wow, how fun.
All right. So I know we have some listeners out there who are in the field. They are dakinis, dakas. They are in the tantra
Pelvic
field.
floor
Pelvic floor
specialists.
specialists, who are really working with clients hands-on. And I know that you guys have affiliate links. Is there a way that they could become affiliates for these products?
Yes, absolutely. And we really want more and more people talking about this. So on our website, there's a little link on the bottom in the footer for affiliate sign up. But I'll also share that so you can add it to the footnotes.
Yeah, I mean, I can see, both gynecologists, urologists, all sorts of people recommending these products so that people can continue having interventions that will be easy to do at home. And you've been so generous to offer our audience a coupon.
Yes, SXR20, which will give them 20% on top of our site sale, which will probably be 35% off soon.
Right,
Correct.
sale? Okay, so
Yes.
you're saying, well, let me just get this straight. You're saying that they can use both the 20% off discount and the 35% discount? That's 55% off.
I'm sorry. Yes, 55% off.
I'll be shopping. I hope the rest of you will too. And you guys, this isn't all. Y'all are so generous. We also have a free gift, which is the How to Introduce More Fun in the Bedroom. What is that?
I believe that one is written by Susan Rakshit,
Oh,
Ah.
great.
which is
Okay.
why it will be incredibly good.
Yes. And we
Exactly.
can verify that.
Yeah.
So we'll have the link in the show notes for the coupon code, for the affiliate link, and for the free gift, How to Introduce More Fun in the Bedroom. Thank you so much for being on the show. This was so enlightening, so fun. And we can't wait to get a bunch of questions in from our listeners. We'll have you back on the show and we can take another deep dive.
Thank you so much for having me.
Such a pleasure. Thanks for coming.
Now, our favorite part, the dish.
I just loved interviewing Soum. I mean, fascinating journey. And, what a brain to be walking around in this world with.
Yeah, I love the perspective and the lens that this all started from.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the problems that they are committed to solving because these have been great mysteries for both men and women when it comes to sexual function and fulfillment that has been elusive, and it has just kind of felt tragic until this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
I'm just feel so filled with hope.
Yeah, it definitely shed a lot of hope. I mean, the whole contraption that he's coming out with right now for mastitis, that is huge. That is going to be a major,
Huge.
major game changer for women who are breastfeeding. And then, the painful period one, all of these devices and contraptions. I still think it is important to, like, when you're looking at painful periods, to be looking at your diet, to be looking at your stress levels, and to be looking at herbs as well as these contraptions. But yeah, as far as like waking up the prostate gland and stimulating the G spot or the cervix in new ways with these devices that he's created, I would say do not pass go.
Well, I'm really glad that you brought up the holistic piece because it's important that people know that it's not just, one medication or one device or one toy that is going to resolve all the suffering. You need to look at it from a holistic point of view and look at many angles to tackle it from. And by doing so, I think you just increase your overall well-being, your overall health, and all that stuff. So it's
Yeah.
not only beneficial for the issue at hand, but typically it ends up benefiting all these other sectors in your life when you're taking a look at your diet and these other interventions.
Absolutely. Going to create so much more longevity in so many ways. And, I just this morning started rereading Existential Kink. I think that's a
Oh,
whole
really?
nother holistic way of like looking at
Mm.
the suffering that you're going through. Like what unconscious part of yourself loves the painful periods or loves having I was just talking to a potential client yesterday, I think it was, who was having painful orgasms. And it is rare that I
Mhm.
have clients with painful orgasms,
I
but
hear about that. Yes.
yeah,
That would have been a good question for him.
but I've had a lot of success in helping them have non-painful orgasms.
Oh,
And yeah,
but how? What have you done
through
that's
Taoist practices
any
and
tips
then
you can share with the
also like
audience?
hands-on. Well, it depends on, the person's body and like what nerves and pelvic floor tissues are impinged and what,
Mm.
muscle groups and ligaments and stuff might be tied up. So it's a sort of a combination between hands-on and then running energy in different ways, and also doing some emotional release to find that place inside to get really deeper into the sensation. Because when we experience pain, we want to get away from it. So the whole premise of existential kink is to like delight in the suffering and delight in the pain. And so this is totally off topic from what Soum was talking about,
Well, but I
but
think it's an interesting thing to bring up that is relatable to the whole interview is this piece around painful orgasms. And so if you're out there and you are experiencing this, give Dr. Willow get on her discovery call calendar because she may have some answers for you. And it sounds like you're really tackling it from three places. The physiological, places that are stuck with tension, and then the energetic movement of that tension, and then the psychological uh, inquiry that helps someone relieve where they're storing, let's say, an inflection point, a trauma, a crisis, a piece of stress in the tissue itself.
absolutely. Yeah. And it was so cool hearing Soam talk about his devices because I was like, oh, this is going to be another piece to incorporate to teach people how to use. Don't just be going up and looking for the pleasure spots and the orgasm spots. Like go in and look for the places that feel uncomfortable, that feel painful, and then start to talk to the tissue and unravel it from that angle. And he did speak to that. He's like, find that place that is pleasurable and then move a little bit beyond it into that tissue that's not pleasurable. Really is amazing what happens when we open the pelvic floor tissue. It's like it opens the
Mhm.
brain up opens the whole mind up.
Yeah, as you know, one of the tips we give people is, build a highway from a pleasure zone to a painful zone. So with your fingers, you dip into pleasure, you massage, you feel the pleasure, then you take a deep breath, and then you move your fingers as if you could drag that pleasure to another spot that may have tension or pain. It's like you're running a highway between the two so that the pleasure can start to alleviate energetically that place that you've got extra tension or, stuck blocks. Now, one of the things I really loved about the interview was talking about people who have a hard time reaching climax, men in particular,
Mm-hmm.
and this keeping pressure and massage to the prostate gland to help coax that ejaculation into fruition. And, when I typically work with people who have it's like they just get stuck on the arousal scale. They can't get to 10 if that were ejaculation. They get stuck at around 4 or 5. And, the two things that I've done to address that is shifting and reteaching how to feel pleasure with different strokes and different types of friction. Because typically people are only able to ejaculate because they use the same type of pressure, the same type of friction. Usually their partner's body can't compete with the friction that gets them off because they're typically using their hand.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually not hard enough or fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
And they get kind of stuck. And so it's a challenge to have the discipline to actually rewire your system to enjoy a feather-like touch, to enjoy a much slower pace. And it's worth the practice and the discovery to train yourself to like those things. And then that might lead you to an ejaculation. And so, of course, G-spot massage, prostate massages can be in combination of all those things, but really feeling more confident about bridging the two of them. That prostate gland is really the ejaculation gland. I loved the kind of phrasing. It brought the box bigger in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was such a great interview. So I'm so excited for more of his amazing devices to come online. And everyone check out the discount code.
Yeah, but you know what? I went to his website and I think it says 35% off the product line right now.
Already?
So, yeah, check out the website. The link is in the show notes.
And use our discount code on top of that discount.
I mean, that's incredible.
That's amazing. That's like
getting $100 off the products, 55%, because they're not inexpensive. I mean, a lot of these types of
medical
sex toys and medical grade toys that we've interfaced with are in the 200 and beyond range.
Yeah, 500.
I don't think his are that expensive, but I did see like $235, $195, that kind of thing.
So
that's a big deal.
Get the deal.
We have received other sex toys that are bendable. I think one of the things that has made his so successful is that they are bendable so they can be like fingers. So you can aim at the prostate gland and you can aim at the female G-spot, and you can kind of adjust the right angle because it's very malleable. And I'm curious, have you played with any of those? I always get a little stuck with getting it the right shape and then hooking that into the body. Like, can you bend it when it's already in your body?
Yeah, well, it's not an actual finger, so I have not played with them inside of my own body. I've only played with them in Susan Bratton's living room, so with a bunch of other experts. So we were having a great time playing and bending, but yeah, we didn't get to go inside, but soon we will because he's sending us some samples. So we'll have to report back to y'all once we've had some playtime.
And since Susan Bratton has come up a couple times in the episode, I will link her episode with us, which was very entertaining. She's so vivacious and fun.
Yes.
You'll learn a lot from her. Check it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Love, love, love.
Thanks for tuning in. This episode was hosted by Tantric Sex Master Coach and Positive Psychology Facilitator Leah Piper, as well as by Chinese and Functional Medicine Doctor and Taoist Sexology Teacher Dr. Willow Brown. Don't forget, your comments, likes, subscribes, and suggestions matter. Let's realize this new world together.